Mr. Blue?
Here.
Mr. Brim?
Here.
Mr. Householder?
Here.
Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Watkins?
Here.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Need a motion to approve or correct the minutes from the regular meeting of November 17th and the special meeting of November 24th, 2014.
McCullough.
Second,
Householder.
any discussion? Have a vote then.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
We have Ryan and Grace are going to give us a report. Ryan and Grace are going to give us a report without Ryan.
Correct.
In years past, August has been busiest, but this year has no peer. Work never ceased, but only increased. However, KCS has nothing to fear. Mr. Collins and Mr. Dean brought KES online, with bits and bytes flowing. Laptops were prepared for grades 5 through 9 to students with screens that were glowing. So as we go into this holiday season, with weather that's lacking snow, Merry Christmas to all at Kent City Schools, and may holiday cheer follow wherever you go. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Great job.
Grace,
And
you're
wonderfully short.
yes, Grace, you're really growing because last year you had to stand on a box, I believe.
Okay, next we'll have our public participation portion of the meeting. Didn't know if there's any volunteers for that.
Mr. Thomas.
If not, we'll move on to our treasury report. Cash position, check register, the receipt ledger, investment report, and budget versus actual. Do we have a motion to accept?
Grim.
Blue.
2 seconds. We're going to take a moment during this report to, Tracy's going to share some pretty close to the end figures for the building project for us. So,
The figures actually I'm going to go over are as of November 20th, which is actually before we accepted the abatement bids. If Ryan, there we are. Our total project budget for the building was $30,803,713.57. And you can see what we had committed at by November 20th, which left a uncommitted to the project of $3,346,000. Of that 30 million, the actual cost we have had so far is $25,882,000. So obviously we still have 5 million to complete. And then I listed all the different vendors that make up that total, which there are numerous. It just goes on and on. And that comes up with the total. We did look at some quick calculations. At one point when I was talking to Joe in the LFI, we have about 190,000 that has not been spent. And if we take out the low bids for the abatement and the demolition, and take the 35% of that, that would leave 923,749 from our portion of the co-shared,
yeah.
plus the 190,000 in the LFI. So our share right now remaining is over $1 million. We do know we have some things yet that we're looking at. One of the things I guess we talked about today is they would co-share abating Northwood.
Oh, okay.
We're going to talk about that on Thursday, I believe.
Yeah. To go ahead and
And
strip
remove
that material out
remove
of
the
there and then
asbestos, yeah.
redo it.
So
Mostly it'd be floor tile and ceiling tile,
Yes.
ceiling.
And then that way, if we did decide to take the building down sometime in the future,
We would never have to pay
we
that
wouldn't
part.
have to, right,
Yeah.
that part would be done. We would just have the demolition cost if we decided to do it on our own.
And the state would co-share that abatement.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't if we did it later, so.
What about the replacement of what's damaged or, what's taken out? Where would that fall then? That'd be ours to
That's what we're
replace.
trying to figure, yeah.
Yeah, that would be 100% us.
The nice part is though, is that we have a meeting with High Point tomorrow, so hopefully we can even share some of those renovation costs based on how they want it renovated. So putting the building back together, they're going to help us and work with us as much as they can. So that's a positive. It's a team effort.
Can I ask you, in that list, there's a 45,000 of state treasure. What was that?
I would imagine that's like all the filing fees and,
It adds up to that much. I saw that number when you sent that out and I was,
yeah, I'd have to actually pull the individual checks, but I could
but it's a
do
lot of the approvals and
approvals
paperwork that
and,
goes through the state.
Permits and everything that go through the treasurer's office.
Mhm.
Added up to that much.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions then about the building project report or the?
Well, I think the numbers show the efficiency of the single prime.
Mhm.
Because our project budget numbers were based on multiple primes. And so I think that I personally believe that the efficiency of the single prime is what helped us achieve the savings that we saw. So I think that's great.
Yeah. The schedule was good, the working relationship was good, and the numbers are good. So that I think spells out a successful project.
I think so.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the treasurer's report.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Now we go to committee reports, Finance Committee. Oh, sorry. Superintendent's here. Good thing you keep me on track.
We only had,
Jennifer, how are you today?
very well,
It
we
was a
only
very
had,
nice day out.
I know, it was a very nice day.
day.
Very good day. On Wednesday, we have a planned 2-hour delay for staff development. So just be aware that Wednesday, the 17th is coming up, as well as Tuesday, the 23rd, we have a 1-hour early release. So we'll just want to make sure that that's communicated. So you'll want to read your school news bulletins as well as check the website for any information on those two delays, planned delays. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Now, Finance Committee.
Finance Committee.
Much anticipated.
Much
Finance.
anticipated. The high school robotics had a request to approve some funds so that they could compete in January. They could get their robots up and online. Their grants that they apply for don't come in until in February or March. But so we needed to roll the money out now to be able to purchase the robots, the kits, I guess it is, and do those things. And so that was one of the things that the Finance Committee, we can do that out of the general fund and then reimburse that money back in.
And one of the grants was approved last week.
Okay,
That was
great.
a
Thank you.
Very positive. We're proud that they got, I think it was the Honda grant. came
Oh,
through
that's
last
fabulous.
week,
That's
so.
the major one. So that's great. That's good to know. We talked about a single man lift at the Kenton Elementary School to be able to reach 42 feet. And so then that lift was reviewed and talked about by the Facilities Committee, is my understanding, in our Finance Committee. And so there's recommendation in there for that. There was a request from Van Loo to do shared service payroll. And Tracy is going to kind of review that and try to guide us a little bit on what can be done there and
what do we want to do? How much do we want to do? And what's going to take precedence? And I think you had to talk to Van Loo about that. And so
Yes.
we should know something more on that probably at our special meeting in January. We'll have another finance meeting and talk about that. But, so just another thing going on. Of course, and you see in the agenda, the substitute pay. We discussed that, and the need for a 4-hour position custodian at the elementary school. So just more things going on. We talked about the bus garage in the finance committee, and we're going to try.
A little bit about it.
Yeah, I would think in the facilities committee that's another one that's talking about it. And we're trying to figure out if we can, because of how our project is and where our monies are, if we can get the state to maybe co-fund us a little bit on the garage, on the bus garage. If we can do that, I think it probably would be prudent to set up a bus garage. Maybe it's not exactly like the one we have now. Of course, we have buses that won't fit in the one we have now, and so that's another reason to sort of push forward with it. But so those numbers are trying to get accumulated and figured out so that we can move forward. And I'm sure facilities will keep us up to date on where they're at with those. And then we, surprisingly enough, we heard from, or I shouldn't say we, Tracy heard from WOCO on the contract, because we've been talking about the last 2 months going with another provider for our services there, for our computer services. And WOCO would like a chance to discuss, to come in and discuss their position and show how they can be more efficient and help us out a little better. So I think we actually finally got through to them that we weren't really happy, but it took a small clubbing over the head. But that really in a nutshell, that's it in the finance committee. Any questions?
For finance?
Finance committee's powerful, aren't they? They control it all. It's a good thing we got good people in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're risking a lot, I tell you.
That's exactly right.
Speaking of Mr. Brim, facilities, or Mr. Blue.
Well,
We're gonna let
actually,
Russ take off here.
All right.
actually, to expand a little bit on what Mr. Halsor was talking about, in one of our abatement meetings, the second one, we found that we were coming in way under the projected cost for the abatements and some of the other costs. And we were talking and discussing with the Mr. Studer, who is our project, he oversees the project. He was feeling that maybe this would be a good time to start considering looking at a building for the bus garage, because the funds, like Dave said, if they'll co-share part of it, this might be the best opportunity we'll ever get to do it, because there are extra funds there, the LFI and some of the other monies. So Mr. Brim and I met the other day with one of our local contractors, and they're in the process right now of drawing up some plans and costing it out to see, if it can fit our budget, fit the needs of what we're looking at. And we're just waiting at this time to get those figures in. But I tend to agree, this might be our best opportunity that come along. I mean, it's like a gift, so we might want to look at it really hard.
Russ and I went out to Giant, but I'd also call my brother Dean at Morton, so he's working on it too, so.
Great.
Right. And of course, we might want to talk to our people that just built the building too.
We talked about it today at the core meeting a little
Okay.
bit too with Jason. So.
I think it's a good time to really look at it. So, and we all know if we build a new garage, we could take the other one down, and that should in reality make that ground more valuable out there.
Have you had
where
any
it sits now.
type of feedback from the representatives from the state?
Haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. And the idea about the abatement at Northwood, then, where's it in this process?
We're pretty much pressing forward because High Point's renovations involve probably taking out some walls because they have a need for a classroom and a lab that are connected, and our classrooms simply aren't big enough.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about taking out walls, we're affecting floor and ceiling, and that's where the asbestos is. And so there's also some flooring that they want to redo based on the type of courses that they're offering. And so if we're going to redo the flooring anyway, it just makes sense to do it, as Mr. Householder said, as we were getting it co-funded and co-shared. And I think you asked where the state was on the bus garage piece of it. Thursday is when we're going to go and start having those discussions about how much of it could be co-funded, what parts of it could be co-funded, and all those pieces. But we kind of had to have an idea of what we're talking about building on that ground. And we're talking about the ground where the elementary school is. And then also talking about the dollars involved with it so that we know how much we have available in the project. And the project is winding down.
The third piece is the physical size of it and whether it fits where on that property.
Right.
To keep it in.
Is there any way we can add an educational piece to the bus garage, coordinating with High Point?
Education, you might be able to. That's not a bad idea.
Oh, you can add the mechanics system into that. Yeah, we got diesel mechanics.
Do they have, I assume they have a program like that.
Sure
Do they
they
have
do.
a diesel mechanic program at High Point?
I'm sure they do. And anything's possible. You know us, we're cutting edge on everything.
That's right.
That makes it
Make
educational.
everything
That's what I'm
possible.
thinking.
So then
Yes, maybe
it's an
that's a good
educational
argument.
building and it
See, we have a meeting with
needs to be
Jeff
co-funded.
Price tomorrow, and then Thursday's the OFCC meeting. We can make it happen in 2 days, I'm sure. No worries.
I don't know. I would think if it did have some kind of educational component, it'd be more likely to be looked favorably upon.
And we kind of are
Bigger portion of
educating
kind
of
adults
co-funding.
in a small sense, because people that want to become bus drivers or get the licenses, I mean, we have the staff and capable of doing that and helping
Yeah.
that, so.
Back to the Northwood, that has always been available to us to abate that. So
It
that's
was
not
always in
really.
the original plan. All
Yeah.
the buildings were able to be abated, so.
All right. Okay, where am I?
Extracurricular.
Mark, do you have anything for us tonight?
Well, we had our extracurricular meeting there, was that about a week ago, I believe, last Thursday, I believe, if I remember correctly. Covered the fall sports. Have a couple coaching openings, I know, and I know on the agenda tonight, we've got those filled already, I believe. We discussed the scoreboards. We found out the scoreboard section of it, there are parts available for you. The message center is analog, it's the old analog, but the scoreboard itself, it's an LED, I believe. So there are parts that are still available. So we might be able to make that go a couple more years yet, as long as we can repair it. The other ones, I think, the athletic director is going to look at, have companies come in, get a couple companies so you got some competition, see what you can do bid-wise.
It was like soccer and baseball and
Right.
softball fields.
Right, yeah, I think there was 3 of them together. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I got an email there, and I see it wiped off my email list, but I see the JROTC placed second out of 16 teams this past weekend. And that's a regional, not just a state. So that's a pretty big event. And we had 2 students place second. And I forget which positions they placed in those, but still, it's a pretty big deal.
Historically, our students do well at those competitions.
They do very well.
Yeah.
They're very competitive. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. Sorry, my email disappeared on me. I just checked it there about 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Thanks for extracurricular.
But can we go back to extracurricular for a minute?
Yeah.
I wasn't here at the last meeting. Did we touch on our football team this year?
Congratulate them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I wasn't here and I didn't see or hear it, but I'd like to congratulate them again since I wasn't here and thank everybody who put time and effort in. I know the students really worked hard at it and I know the coaches did a heck of a job. We had a very successful year and we're all thankful.
Absolutely.
All right. Career Center.
Nothing more than what I discussed in a recent past about the projects that Jennifer's talking about. And we're still in a superintendent search and looking at the facilities to maybe enhance or make it better learning environment for the students. And we're just moving forward. And we are doing a pretty good job with the students. So I guess that's a good thing.
Okay. Policy Committee?
We did not meet.
There's no old business on the agenda. Does anybody have any old business? If not, we'll go to new business. We need to approve the following substitutes contingent upon their certification, training, background checks and such for the 2014-15 school year. We have Steve Hayes and Brandon Walters, both substitute custodians. Motion to accept.
Householder.
Blue, McCullough. There you go, Russ. I'll help you out, Russ.
That's my ventriloquist act.
Let's see.
There you go.
He's delegating.
I guess.
Any discussion? If not, we'll have a vote.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mr. Blue.
Yes,
The real Mr. Blue.
Yeah,
I was waiting for the.
There you go.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Approve the following volunteers for the 2014-15 school year contingent upon certification, training, and background check. We have Brian Plott, middle school basketball coach, Tim Castle, middle school basketball coach, and Adrian Smythe, they're all middle school basketball coaches. Need a motion to accept, please.
Brim.
Blue.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mr. Blue.
Yes.
Approve the written resignation of Miranda Strauss, high school head volleyball coach, effective immediately. Motion, please.
McCullough.
Householder.
Discussion?
I just want to thank her for stepping in for 3 years. I mean, she was going to college full time and that's a big load. So just thank her for her time and wish her luck finishing up her degree.
All right. Vote, please.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mr. Blue.
Yes.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Approve the following salary schedule adjustment replacement for the 2014-15 school year. Sherry Smith from a BA 150 to a MA Masters.
Brim.
Second.
Householder.
Discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mr. Blue.
Yes.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Approve the following employee supplemental contracts for the 2014-15 school year. Contingent upon required paperwork. Matt Dudek, high school head baseball coach. Step 3, 7+ years experience at $4,834. Motion to accept.
Blue.
Second.
Brim.
Matt's here this evening. We have any comments?
We look forward to it.
If you're going to bother to come to me, you might as well.
I'm just humbled to be taking this job and eager to get started. I mean, you don't get an opportunity to come back and coach where you went to school very often, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I've learned a lot of lessons over the past 10 years with Coach Fackler and with Coach Mock, and I know the kids are excited. They've already started hitting at the cages and want to start throwing. And I just want to take the lessons I've learned playing and under Coach Mock and Coach Fackler and kind of add to those with the kids and kind of build on what we've got going and kind of take us back to where we've been previously. So
Appreciate
All right,
it.
thanks, Matt. Look forward to it. Let's vote.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mr. Blue.
Yes.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Approve the following employee supplemental contract for the 2015-16 school year contingent upon required paperwork. Morgan Rogers, high school head volleyball coach, step 0, 0 years experience at a rate of $3,614. Motion to accept.
McCullough.
Householder.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Blue.
Yes.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes. Approve the annual trip to Camp Wilson and Bell Fountain. Trip is scheduled for May 13th through 15th, 2015. Motion, please.
Brim.
Householder. He's down together.
Definitely blue. Have any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Brim.
Yes.
Mr. Householder.
Yes.
Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mr. Blue.
Yes.
Approve the payment of the annual membership dues to the Ohio School Boards Association for January through December 2015. Motion to accept.
Also,
Second,
McCollum.
discussion? Vote please.
Mr. Householder?
yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Approve the following foreign exchange student for the 2014-15 school year. Constantine Hosel? Constantine Hosel from Austria. Motion, please.
Brim?
Second,
Blue.
any discussion? She's coming in for half a year, is that correct?
He looked like a neat kid. I got to read his application, so I'd be glad to have him.
And the last time we got the check, and we do get funding for these exchange students. So
Yeah. State-
we had thought we hadn't before, but
Okay, vote please.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Mr. Brim?
yes.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Approve the date and time for the reorganization and regular meeting for January 12th, 2015 at 7 PM. Motion to accept.
Blue.
Also,
Second,
blue and then also.
any discussion? Vote on that, please.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Approve the appointment of President Pro Tem, current year Vice President or the other board appointee, not the treasurer or superintendent. For the interim until our reorganization meeting.
I'll move to accept the motion and would propose that we make Mr. Blue, Russell Blue, our President Pro Tem in, what do I want to say? To be prepared for his next year as president.
I hear a drafting
I
motion.
did hear that train whistle.
Is that effective immediately?
Effective on the 12th,
Oh,
On the
unfortunately.
12th.
All right. Second,
Brim?
discussion. Russ, plead your case. Yep, that's
That's good enough.
vote.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes. We have faith in you. We do have an addendum is to approve the increase of the substitute teacher rate from $80 per day to $90 per day effective January 5th, 2015. Need a motion to accept.
Brim?
Second,
McCollum.
discussion?
We just did some research. We also want to make sure that we can attract high-quality subs for our kids, because when teachers are out, we want them to have the highest quality education possible. So to be competitive, we have not raised our substitute rates, and I think it was 10 or 12 years. It was a significant period of time. So we are long overdue. And so that's why we requested to the finance to increase from $80 a day to $90 a day.
Okay. Any
There is a
further-
difference in substitutes, so we'd like to get the best ones.
Yes, and we are working to try to minimize our substitute number. One of the things that Jen has been looking at is part of the PD, and some of that stuff is required, and we can't move it around, and so we have to have substitutes because our teachers need to get that information. So it's tough. Some of those days are tough, but we need to try to organize it a little better, I think, and Jen's working on that. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, absolutely. We need to minimize days out of the classroom. And so the administrative team has been doing that. Our ASOP program is able to run reports. We're able to look at things very carefully to make sure that we're not selecting that same teacher for every single committee. So we can actually track days out of classroom. And we monitor that every month. We discuss it every month at the administrative meeting, and we strategize is this PD absolutely necessary? What's the benefit to our students when the teacher is out of the classroom, when they get the PD, when they come back? What does that look like? And we're also trying to do more things and plan more things for summer or outside of the school day, so that instead of paying a substitute teacher, we can pay our teacher stipends and to reimburse them for their time. Because, I mean, we're still paying out the money, so
Right, that would be the best.
we can sponsor and pay our teachers through stipends to do professional development that we don't have to do during the school day. But other teachers have families and commitments and those kinds of things. So we're just wanting to get that on the calendar and planned the best we can.
All right, very good. Any other comments or questions on that? If not, let's vote, please.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Need to approve a motion to go in executive session to discuss personnel.
Householder.
Brim, a second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Householder?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Mr. Blue?
Yes.
Mr. Brim?
Yes.
Time is 7:31.
No, we
No.
there won't be any.
And our next meeting will be on January 12th at 7 PM.
Are you planning on just reorganization or are you planning on second school?
The whole.
It'll be a
Both, all in
full,
one.
yeah, it'll be all encompassing.
And taking a look at the world of sports, the new Associated Press Top 25 men's basketball poll is out, and the top team remains Kentucky. Once again, the Wildcats, who are unbeaten in 11, received all first-place votes. Competing in the first five are Duke, Arizona, Louisville, and Wisconsin. The second five in this week consists of Virginia, Villanova, Gonzaga, Texas, and Kansas. And that's a complete check of news and sports as we have it. Checking out the forecast for tonight. Showers rolling in tonight, temperatures mid-40s. On Tuesday, cloudy with showers in the morning, highs upper 40s. Tuesday night, cloudy, 30% chance of rain, lows lower 30s. And Wednesday, cloudy with highs in the mid-30s. That's all from the National Weather Service and WKTN.